Hey everybody, it's Jake from GeoTargetly, and in this tutorial I will be showing you how to operate our feature called Geo JavaScript. But before we dive into how to implement it and how to get it to your site, let's discuss what Geo JavaScript actually is. The best way to show you what Geo JavaScript does is by starting over at our homepage, then going into the product section and then checking out the Geo JavaScript to see what it's about. So basically, as it says over here, you can execute different JavaScript codes on your site based on what location the visitor entering your site or visiting your site, what location, such as what country, what city they are from. Meaning you can have your site do different actions based on the visitor location. To give you some ideas of what this might be used for, and these are ideas, or these are use cases that our real customers are using Geo JavaScript for. For example, one of our customers, what they're doing is they're triggering an opening of a drop-down, of a language picker drop-down, based on if visitor entering their site is coming from a certain location. What I mean by that is that they have a site that's primarily in English because they're a US-based business. And if somebody from Southern America enters their site, they use Geo JavaScript to by default open the drop down for language selector as if the user already clicked on it, which lets the visitor know that they have the option to switch to a Hispanic version of the site. Another of our customers uses Geo JavaScript to actually select which ads should be displayed on their site, and we actually do have a case study about that. So if we go into case studies and check out StereoNet, so basically what they're doing is they're running ads on their site, and Geo JavaScript is telling their ad provider which ads should be chosen based on the location of the visitor to their site. You can check out the whole case study over here if you want to learn more. And finally, another of our customers, what they're doing is they're using Geo JavaScript to change the contents of their site based on location. So what they're doing is that if a visitor comes in from a certain country and they do not want to display a certain element of their page to visitors from that country, they just say use JavaScript to set the CSS value of display from block to none of this specific element, which means that the content will be hidden for these visitors. Cool. Now that we know what geolocation, sorry, not geolocation, but Geo JavaScript is good for, we can get into how to implement it. In order to implement Geo JavaScript, you will need a GeoTargetly account, but don't worry about it. We offer a 14-day free trial with access to all of our features and no limits on page view quota. And basically the way to get there is by clicking any of these try 14 days free buttons, or the bigger one over here on the homepage. That will get you to the sign up. Once you have created your account, this is what you should be facing. And let me just minimize this. Yeah, so once you get into our product, you can implement Geo JavaScript by either navigating to Geo JavaScript from the sidebar, or just finding it in the in this list and clicking add to site, which is what I'll be doing right now. Then next thing that you need to do, or you do not need to do but is recommended, is renaming your setup. So I'll say in this example I will be showing you how to just very quickly test whether it's actually working. So we will just be doing console logging, and also we will try what I mentioned previously, which is opening a drop down for certain visitors. So let's say we'll say console plus drop down or something like that. And then in the first step of the setup, you need to specify on which pages this should be triggered. You have three options over here. You can either say, okay, I want to run this tracking code on all of the pages of my site. I can choose which pages, specific subset of pages to run it on, or I just want to run it on a singular page. Basically, when it comes to these three options, what I like to do is use the first option and just type in your domain. So geotargetly.com, and then what you can do is implement the tracking code into a specified list of pages. So that's the easiest way to go about it, I would say. But if you're worried about the tracking code unnecessarily being implemented in multiple pages or triggering on pages that you don't want it triggered on, feel free to experiment with these options over here, and I'll show them more in a second. Cool, now that we have selected this, let's go to step 2. And in step 2, basically what you see over here is the definition of location segments. What that means is you need to provide GeoTargetly with the information on what bracket, what set of visitors should be the different JavaScript triggered for. And what I mean by that is you can choose from several targeting options. You can either choose countries, states, cities, latitude and longitude plus a radius around it, so a pinpoint on a map, or IP addresses or IP address ranges. Country level targeting is the most commonly used one for GeoTargetly and the one with best precision, so I'll just be going with that. But if you want to target specific, I don't know, states in US or territories in Canada, you can choose this one. So let's start with country, and as I'm located in Czech Republic, let's just go with Czech Republic. And this is the location defined, and now I need to, let me just rename this. Now I need to tell GeoTargetly what JavaScript code should be ran on for the visitors of this specific location, whether a rule is matched. So I'll go into the JavaScript tab, and over here, let's be super quick and simple, and let's just do console dot log, and let's do CZ as I'm in Czech Republic. And basically, if I finish the setup now, if I implement the tracking code to my site, for the visitors coming in from Czech Republic, I should be seeing that the console pushes or prints CZ. But let's say that for different visitors, let's say the visitors from US, I want to do a different action. In order to do that, what you need to do is create a new location segment. So what you can do is click over here, add more location or odd location. Let's say US over here. Once again, United States, fairly straightforward. And JavaScript, I'll just borrow from over here. And let's say US. And basically, this is the way to set it up, as simple as that. But as you can see, there's a third tab over here called Page Exclusions. And over here, what you can do is, if you're using the first option on step 1, which means all pages, you can exclude some pages from the code being triggered on them. So you'll go into Page Exclusions, and over here you can define exclusion criteria. You can either say that URL equals something, or URL contains, or URL has a query string or a hash. And for these conditions, the tracking code should not be triggered. Or if you go into the second option on step 1, basically there's a fourth tab over here, which is page inclusions. And in page inclusions, instead of excluding pages, you can say, okay, these are the pages that I want to include the code on. And it has the same approach as the page exclusions. But as I said, I like to do it like this, as if for all pages, and then I decide what pages to actually implement or inject the code into. Cool, so that's the second step nearly taken care of. One more thing that I wanted to show you is this all other locations segment. Basically, you can't define any rules here because the rules are auto-defined or predefined by saying if the visitor does not match any of the criteria defined in the manually defined location segments, this should be triggered. It's off by default, but you can turn it on, and you can have a default JavaScript running here, but we won't be using that one right now. If I click next, I'm taken to the third step, which is tracking code, and over here all I can do is save the setup. When the setup is saved, tracking code script is generated, and this tracking code script needs to be implemented into your site in order for GeoTargetly to determine the visitor location and run the JavaScript that we defined in step 2. So let's take a look into how you can actually implement it. In this tutorial, I will be showing you how to implement it for Webflow, because that's the CMS that we use. And let's take a look. So the first thing that you do is you copy the code to clipboard, then you navigate to your CMS. I already have it opened here, and there are two ways of implementing the code. First up, you can implement it site-wide, and for site-wide implementation, you select your project, go into the site settings, then under custom code, and you then inject the code either into the header or the footer. For Geo JavaScript specifically, it is the footer because it says before the closing HTML body tag. So I would put it over here before the closing body tag. But for some of our features, such as Geo Redirect or Geo Block, you need to implement it into the header. So if I wanted to run on every page, I would put it here, but that's not what I want to do. I instead want to run it only on one specific page, which is this page, HTML Geolocation API. And what I will do there is I need to go into the designer. I'm already there, navigate to the page, and then hit this cogwheel. And over here, scroll all the way down and implement the code here. As you can see, there already is a code here, and that's why I didn't want to. The reason for this, I didn't want to waste time of this demo by you looking at me pushing to production. So I already pushed it to production some time ago, and we can take a look at how it is working. Cool. So if I navigate back to GeoTargetly, and over here, if I go to the page that I showed you a second ago, so HTML5 geolocation, now I can test whether it is working the way it should be. So first up, we said, or let me go back to the setup, because it's a different setup compared to the one that I just showed you, because it's already implemented. So let's go over here, but the setup is the same, and I have a check location, and for check location, two things should be happening. First up, the console should be logging Czech Republic, and then I should have, or I should see drop down open. Basically, don't worry about this code. That's not the point of this tutorial, to explain the code to you. But the point is that this code is super simple, and what it does, it checks whether there is a element of the page with this specific ID, and if it is, it simulates a click on it so that it opens. So if I go to this page, let's start with inspect, and let's go into console. So we're doing fine because we see Czech Republic, because the location criteria was met. Also, what should be happening if I click on this, or if I refresh the page, you can see that this element was opened, and that's due to the JavaScript being ran, because if we go into elements and take a look at this, element of the page, you can see that the ID is W dropdown toggle 2, and that's the element that I was looking for. Maybe a bit of a just general JavaScript recommendation or tip over here. If your element has more than one ID or more than one class in the element or in the DOM, in the kind of code of the page, they are separated by spaces. But over here in JavaScript, you need to separate them by periods. So that's just a nugget of wisdom that I wanted to share. Cool, but let's say that I'm not a visitor from Czech Republic. Let's say I'm a visitor from US. For US, I should be seeing a different code. And sorry, I didn't put anything here. So let's do US. Let's save the setup. And now let me simulate the location by using a VPN. If I go over here and if I connect to United States, once again, let's return to console. Refresh, and you can see that a US is being posted over here or printed over here. So everything's working as it should, which is great. Perfect. Now, as I started to talk about simulation of locations, basically that brings us or is a good segue to testing. So how can you test whether GeoTargetly is actually triggering correctly on your page? There are several ways to do that, and I'll show them to you. As you already saw, one of them, super simple, is the VPN. You just simulate the location that you want to trigger it for, and it either works or it doesn't work. You can see it. But let's say that you simulated the location and the code is not doing what you expected it to do. You need to actually troubleshoot whether the code is being fired on your page. For that, what I like to do is once again going to inspect or developer tools and then going into network and then looking up whether the tracking code that's implemented into your page is actually being triggered on the page. In order to do that, you need to find the code, the tracking code of the config that you created, and then you need to look up a part of that code. What I like to do is this part after the domain, and before the ID of the setup, and you take it, you go into network, type it into the search bar, and if I refresh this, you can see that I find the tracking code that is being ran on the page, and you should be seeing a status code of 200. Also, if you see multiple codes running over here, you might want to check like which ID it is, and I see that the ID of this config is OPNC. If I return OPNC, so everything should be working fine. I see that it is actually triggering on the site. That's another way to test. The third way to test is actually built into GeoTargetly, and I really like it. That's why I recommend it every time I'm troubleshooting some issue with our customers. So basically, in your specific config, you go over here into what we call test mode. And in the test mode, you can simulate any location as long as you type in your IP address and the location that you want to simulate. So right now I'm using a VPN for privacy reasons. I don't want to disclose my personal IP address. So let's get that IP address and let's try to use it for simulating a different location. So let's picture that I'm in US right now because that's what the VPN says. I need to determine my IP address. You can do it by clicking over here, and that brings you to one of our free tools. And that free tool you can also find over here under my IP geolocation, and you can see that this is my IP address right now. So what I do is I input the IP address here, and then the other location that I have some JavaScript running for is Czech Republic. So let's try and simulate Czech Republic, and you also need to hit on over here and then save. Right now, when I get to the page, this is the page, and let's go back to console. I should no longer be seeing US, but I should be seeing Czech Republic. Let's just double check that. You can see that I was able to successfully simulate Czech Republic, and also the drop-down open. So everything's working as it should be. This way you can kind of simulate what your visitors from different locations would be seeing on your page. Cool, so that's all that. And one more thing that I wanted to show you in the app is the last tab that we didn't talk about, which is analytics. Basically, the way that GeoTargetly runs or is the way that you pay for GeoTargetly is by purchasing credits. One credit equals one page view, and each triggering of the code on your site equals one page view. And in the analytics, you can see how many page views were consumed by a specific setup on a given day. So you can see that so far we consumed 3 page views on this day, and you can even see the breakdown of those page views between the location segments. Even though we came in from the US, it's not showing anything yet because there is a bit of a delay here. But as I refresh the data, you can see that now it shows all of the data. If you want to reconcile how much your setup is consuming from a page view quota with your total consumption, you can exit the setup, go into the subscriptions over here, and you can take a look at your complete consumption. And as you can see, it's May 9th today, and so far this I had a consumption of 8 page views today, but this is just a test account, so don't worry about it. Perfect. That brings us to the end of the tutorial, but in case I missed anything, in case anything was unclear, I hope there's sufficient resources and ways for you to get in touch with us so that our support team and me can help you troubleshoot your setups. The easiest way to get in touch is by chat support over here on both our website as well as in the application. You can access our chat support, which you can get to over here. We either offer live chat support during the Central European time zone work hours, or outside of those you can contact us via email at support@geotargetly.com. And also there's a lot of resources that you can access kind of async. What I mean by that is if you go into, let's say over here, resources and docs, you can find all of our features, detailed descriptions of all of our features. Right now we're talking about Geo JavaScript, and basically you can either go to docs or a quick start guide. For the docs, this is our whole collection of everything that we have on Geo JavaScript. And for a quick start guide, if you don't want to look at videos or you don't want to rewatch the video, there is a slideshow version of this setup which pretty much tells you what I described in this video. So feel free to give that a watch. In case anything in the application in general or specifically in Geo JavaScript is different from what you're seeing in this video. It most likely is due to the case that we really like to stay on top of releases and release new updates regularly. So in order for you to kind of reconcile the differences between the video and the actual current state, feel free to go to our roadmap. You can find it over here down in the footer. And this is the way it looks like. You can see the recent releases, updates on all we've been working on recently. I believe that's pretty much everything. If you have any questions, as I said, either get in touch via the support, the email, or feel free to leave a comment down here in the under the video. And with that, I'll just say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll have a great day.